helps grow your business. Comcast Business, built for business.
Good morning, America. State of emergency. Hurricane Hermine slams Florida overnight, the first to hit the state in more than a decade. Ginger Z on the scene when it hits. The storm pounds the panhandle with winds topping 80 miles an hour, life-threatening surges, flooding, evacuations and rescues overnight. Now millions on alert along the East Coast as the dangerous storm heads north. A weekend washout and travel nightmare for the holiday.
Breaking right now, global recall. Samsung, the world's biggest smartphone maker, sending a major alert after reports dozens of devices burst into flames.
Quarterback Colin Kaepernick once again refuses to stand during the national anthem overnight, this time as service members are honored in front of him on military night. Now outrage growing over his protests as more athletes join him across the country.
ABC News exclusive, Dwayne Wade one-on-one with George, speaking out in his first interview since his cousin was gunned down on the streets of Chicago.
It's kind of one of those moments, for our family that it's like, this is not real.
Nakia Aldridge, the mother of 4, killed as she was pushing her baby in a stroller.
How do you turn that darkness into light?
His reaction to Donald Trump's comments about his family's tragedy and what the NBA superstar is doing to end violence in his hometown.
I really think now that my purpose for being back in the city is bigger than basketball.
Only on GMA this morning.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And good morning, America. We want to get right to that Hurricane Hermine making landfall overnight. You see it right there hitting Florida, the first hurricane there since 2005.
And take a look at the storm right now and a look at its path. The storm moving north, millions on alert this holiday weekend, all the way up to New Jersey, where that storm may stall for days. A state of emergency already declared in at least 2 states, and we have team coverage up and down the East Coast. Ginger is starting us off in the Panhandle in St. Mark's, Florida. Good morning to you, Ginger.
Good morning to you, Amy, here in St. Mark's, where it was a nightmare for so many of us along the coast of Florida. We were in the eye of this storm. This thing passed and made landfall just east of us by a few miles. Flooding, our big concern. I could easily still walk into thigh or even waist-deep water. And this thing is a tropical storm now in South Georgia, moving northeast, threatening the East Coast.
You gotta move it. Oh!
Overnight, Hurricane Hermine lashing the southeast. Winds over 80 miles per hour. Storm surge reaching up to 6 feet.
It's been a night of tornado warnings, torrential rains, the eye just a couple of miles away.
Hermine is the first hurricane in more than a decade to rock the Sunshine State. 7 hours before landfall, the streets of St. Mark's literally becoming the river.
It's a fish. It's a fish in the street.
Please protect your property and evacuate immediately.
Clouds hijacking the sky. Seawater creeping onto the land.
Here it comes.
Rain coming in torrents.
We have sandbags at the door, and we have water over our dock.
Hundreds, like Chaplain Chris Fletcher and his cousin, spent the night in shelters. While Hurricane Hermine damaged homes and buildings along Florida's panhandle.
Okay, let's see how the hotel's faring. It's right into and up to the door. Oh no, it's starting to get in.
This morning, there is a trail of damage. Homes shredded, hundreds of thousands without power, and entire towns underwater. While the worst may be over for Florida, Hermine now setting her sights on the rest of the East Coast.
And this tropical storm is now in South Georgia, and that is exactly where our Rob Marciano is this morning.
Good morning, Ginger. The center is right over Valdosta. The right eye wall came right through here about 2 hours ago. Very chaotic. Winds gusting over 50 miles an hour. These live oaks, they do pretty good in the wind, but they're covered with Spanish moss, so that's creating a lot of debris. Other tree limbs coming down across Valdosta. We've got power out at our hotel. We've got utility crews at our hotel, no doubt pre-positioned to fan out when the winds die down. They will be doing that here across South Georgia and certainly across Tallahassee, where those tall pines are more susceptible to coming down. 56 counties under a state of emergency today. Schools certainly are closed at this hour, and we've got quite a number of hours before the winds begin to die down here in South Georgia, where they haven't seen a tropical storm or a hurricane here in quite some time. Ginger?
Yeah, Rob, and exactly that point. The outer bands are already reaching into South Carolina. Let's take you straight to the maps now because that tornado watch extends from South Carolina into central Florida. We also have those tropical storm warnings all the way up through North Carolina. Tropical storm watches that go through the mid-Atlantic up through New Jersey. We'll get to those, but look at this track. It hugs the East Coast. The timing goes through Saturday when it goes back into the Atlantic and then meanders there through the holiday and eventually the midweek. That's why we've got tropical storm watches. Some of the impacts could be beach erosion, coastal flooding, and gusty winds. Not the way we all wanted to head back to school. That is for sure after our Labor Day weekend. Amy and George.
Not at all, Ginger. You use that word meander. You guys are saying that the storm might stall off New Jersey?
And that's exactly the thing. Remember, this is a storm we've been talking about for some 10 days. This thing could sit off of New Jersey, off the coast, rip currents, high surf, that beach erosion possibility for days through the midweek and even beyond. George and Amy.
Okay, Ginger, thanks very much. That could mean all kinds of trouble for holiday weekend travel. It's affecting flights up and down the East Coast. Airlines making arrangements this morning for millions of people, and ABC's Lindsay Janice is at the airport in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where the storm is heading now. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, George. The travel misery is just beginning. Almost 16 million Americans are planning to fly this holiday weekend, and the airlines are already making arrangements, telling people to expect major cancellations and delays. If your airport is affected by Hermine, the main carriers will allow you to change those flights for no charge for free, some even allowing you to cancel your plans for a full refund. George?
And Lindsay, which airports are being affected most?
Well, they are already seeing delays and cancellations at airports across Florida. We're talking Tampa, Orlando, Tallahassee. Those are continuing up the East Coast. Savannah, Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach here in Charleston. In Charlotte, there was already a brief ground stop on Thursday because of early rain bands from this storm. And we could even see the New York area airports affected if Hermine continues its northern track this weekend, George.
As it moves up the coast. Okay, Lindsay, thanks very much.
So many people impacted. Of course, we'll keep you updated here on ABC News throughout the morning. Now to the race for the White House and Donald Trump in a Twitter feud with Mexico's president over who is going to pay for a border wall as Melania fights her own battle over recent headlines. ABC's Cecilia Vega is here with all the latest. Good morning to you, Cecilia.
Amy, good morning to you. Donald Trump has had a number of very public Twitter feuds since launching his campaign. Cher, Bette Midler, Elizabeth Warren, and now you can add the president of Mexico to that list. Less than 24 hours after they shook hands and made nice, this morning Donald Trump and Mexico's president are locked in an all-out war, a Twitter war. Trump tweeting, "Mexico will pay for the wall." Mexico's Enrique Peña Nieto firing back, "I repeat what I told you personally, Mr. Trump. Mexico would never pay for a wall." After that fiery immigration speech,
"You can call it whatever the hell you want. They're gone."
Trump now trying to strike a different tone.
"We will treat everyone with dignity, respect, and compassion."
Asked overnight if he would deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed serious crimes.
"We're going to sit back. We're going to assess the situation. Before we do anything further, I want to see how it shapes up when we have strong, I use the word impenetrable borders."
But this morning, it is Melania Trump who is locked in a fight of her own. The billionaire's wife filed a $150 million defamation suit against the Daily Mail and a Maryland blogger for stories that accused her of having a racy past. Her lawyers saying their many lies include, among others, that Mrs. Trump supposedly was an escort in the 1990s before she met her husband. The suit calls the stories egregious, malicious, and harmful to Mrs. Trump. Those stories retracted, and the Daily Mail saying in a statement it did not intend to state or suggest that these allegations are true and regrets any such misinterpretation. And now a big staffing change for Donald Trump. He's bringing on David Bossie as a deputy campaign manager. He is a veteran conservative operative who spent decades investigating the Clintons. The Clinton campaign, as you can imagine, is not holding back. They say, quote, Donald Trump has put the most extreme elements of the right-wing fringe in the driver's seat of his campaign. George?
Okay, Cecilia, let's talk about this with Matt Dowd. Right now, one thing you have to give Donald Trump credit for, he does dominate the headlines every single day in this race with this immigration back and forth. So you know, we've seen the meeting with the president of Mexico. We've seen the tweet war with the president of Mexico. We've seen the speeches. On balance, where does this end up for Donald Trump at the end of the week?
Well, it was an amazing situation to watch that day where he showed up as Bruce Banner in Mexico and the Hulk in Arizona in this. I think this last 3 days doesn't help him at all with Latino outreach. I think this is all about, and even his staff hirings are all about reinforcing his base, the 40% or 41% that he already has. And I think his hope in this election, George, right now, is that turnout is down and that he has enough 50, 55 million voters that if they show up and they're enthusiastic, he's able to squeak out a win without having to go into the demography.
In part because of the unfavorables for Hillary Clinton are so high as well. And the trip, it's clearly going to continue. More emails out today on the Clinton Foundation. You're probably going to see the FBI release their documents as well. Julian Assange says he's holding on to something that is going to come out in October. How big a threat to the Clinton campaign?
I think this is a real problem for Hillary Clinton, and combined with the fact that she has disappeared basically off the campaign trail. She hasn't held a press conference in 9 months. It's almost as if you have to put her face on a milk carton to find her these days. And in the course of this race, I think she needs to go out and start confronting the press. She needs to have press conferences over the next few weeks in the lead up
to own the agenda again.
And basically turn this around again and turn it back on Donald Trump. If it becomes about her, she loses this race.
So you're saying she can't wait for the debates?
She can't wait for the debates. I think she needs to do a press conference before that first debate to get a lot of this out there so it doesn't dominate it in the aftermath of the debate.
Okay, Matthew Dowd, thanks very much.
All right, George, now to that major headline about smartphones. Samsung announcing a global recall of its Galaxy Note 7 after those reports. Dozens of them burst into flames. ABC's Rebecca Jarvis is here with all the latest on that. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Amy. This is big and surprising news. The hugely popular, hotly anticipated phone went on sale just a few weeks ago, and now Samsung is pulling every Galaxy Note 7 off store shelves and replacing every device that's been sold. Samsung, the world's biggest smartphone maker, recalling its new Galaxy Note 7 smartphone after reports that 35 devices caught fire while charging. The company has found at least 24 phones with a battery problem. Samsung has already shipped 2.5 million of the devices since the phones went on sale. And for anyone who owns a Galaxy Note 7, the company will replace it in about 2 weeks. Samsung just came off its most profitable quarter in more than 2 years, thanks to sales of the smaller flagship Galaxy 7 phones. It was expected to keep momentum going, with sales of the Note 7 narrowing its gap with Apple in the U.S. And Samsung says the batteries with the issue are made by different suppliers, which they declined to name. But this is just bad timing, considering that Apple's new iPhone will likely be revealed next week, George.
Oh, it sure is bad timing. Okay, Rebecca, thanks very much. We're going to move on now to that protest by Colin Kaepernick. 49ers quarterback knelt instead of standing during the national anthem at last night's game. He was not alone. ABC's Kana Whitworth was there and joins us now from San Diego. Good morning, Kana.
Yeah, George, good morning. One of Colin Kaepernick's teammates joined him in taking a knee, and a Seattle Seahawks player also didn't stand for their national anthem. But this morning, Kaepernick says he's willing to make real change and plans on donating $1 million to charities that he's been working with to help end racial inequality.
For the land and of the free.
Overnight, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand during the national anthem again. This time, he took a knee right behind hundreds of service members being honored on Military Appreciation Night. As the crowd and players stand, you can see Kaepernick kneeling on the sideline. Teammate Eric Reed joining him.
Going to stand. And he's receiving heavy boos here.
The crowd booing every time he took a snap.
He's entitled to his opinion. We fought for that. I just think he's a jerk.
And now the quarterback sparking new controversy for wearing these socks showing police officers as pigs. Those scandalous socks drawing criticism from law enforcement officials across the country. Police in Vermont tweeting, "Wealthy, privileged person's free speech dehumanizes an entire group of human beings." Sound familiar, Kaepernick?
The socks that were worn, did those not seem negative?
No, that was, once again, we have cops that are murdering people. We have cops in the SFPD that are blatantly racist. and those issues need to be addressed.
Players from other teams like Jeremy Lane from Seattle are joining Kaepernick in his seated stand, begging the question, how far will this go?
At this point, I think it will continue to be taking a knee. As far as how long this goes, I'm not sure.
I asked Kaepernick if he plans on taking up the San Francisco Police Association on their invite to visit the academy, and he says yes, adding that he's concerned about racism within the department, saying that some bad cops are giving all cops a bad name. Amy.
All right, Kana, thank you. Well, now to that case sparking outrage across the country. Brock Turner, the former Stanford swimmer convicted of sexual assault, set to be released from jail today after serving 3 months of a 6-month sentence. ABC's Matt Gutman is in San Jose, California, with all the latest on that. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Amy. Now, Turner is set to walk out that door in just a couple of hours. He was convicted of sexually assaulting a young woman who was passed out drunk at a Stanford University party. Now, normally that felony can carry a sentence of up to 14 years. He served just 90 days at this jail. The judge in that case saying that he was concerned about the severe impact on Turner if he was in prison. That set off massive outrage here. The judge facing death threats and a serious campaign for his removal. But Turner won't be walking out of here empty-handed. He will be presented with a sack of hate mail, hundreds of letters that have been piling up over the past month or so. And the hardest part may be coming up for Brock Turner. He is now going to have to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. And we're told that officials in Ohio are already preparing to send out postcards to all his neighbors, alerting them that a sex offender is moving in. George.
No revoking that. Okay, Matt, thanks very much. Now to that massive explosion at Cape Canaveral. SpaceX rocket blew up on the launch pad. Major setback for private air travel. You see it right there. And for Facebook. ABC's David Curley is tracking the story from Washington. Good morning, David.
Morning, George. This morning, Elon Musk has a problem. The question is, how big is that problem? How long will he keep his rockets grounded after this spectacular failure?
The test looked normal. Then suddenly, the loaded SpaceX rocket explodes, sending shockwaves miles from Cape Canaveral. And watch this. That is the cargo, set to be sent into space Saturday, falling in flames and exploding. It was this Israeli satellite that was to be launched, which Facebook planned to use for its first venture into space. In Africa, CEO Mark Zuckerberg expressed his disappointment in SpaceX's failure. The satellite was expected to offer internet connections to a large part of the African continent. This was the second big failure for SpaceX. A year ago, June, one of its Falcon 9 rockets blew up on takeoff with a NASA payload. While CEO Elon Musk has landed his reusable rocket on a drone ship, he now faces another serious setback. The private space company, which has visions of flying to Mars, was scheduled to take supplies to the space station in November. Former astronaut Mark Kelly serves on SpaceX's crew safety panel.
It's the second setback for SpaceX.
It's a difficult business to be in. You know, flying payloads into space at 25 times the speed of sound is a really hard thing to do. And no matter how hard we work at this, there are accidents, and there are going to be accidents in the future.
SpaceX already had a backlog of flights. This will only make it longer. And as I mentioned, it complicates the efforts to resupply the space station. NASA believes it can get supplies there, George, other ways over the coming months.
Let's hope so. David Curley, thanks very much. Now let's go back to Ginger in St. Marks, Florida. Ginger.
Hey there, George. If you are in Charleston or in Raleigh, you've got to pay attention to this. The flash flood watches for 4 to 7 inches plus of rain in the next 24 to 36 hours are on you. Let's get to the weekend getaways now, brought to you by Walgreens.
When is your flu shot more than a flu shot? When it helps give a life-saving vaccine to a child in need. Thanks to customers like you, Walgreens' Get a Shot, Give a Shot program has helped provide 15 million vaccines through the UN Foundation. It's that easy to make a difference. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Today's going to be one of the nicer days out of the Labor Day weekend. 82 with sunshine. We'll see some clouds late, but I like the low humidity. Tomorrow, more humidity, more clouds, and even some rain. The worst conditions, though, from the remnants of Hermine will be at the beaches. Saturday early, right till Saturday late. Could see some winds gusting to 50 miles per hour with that rough surf and rough rip currents. Don't think too many people are going to be getting in the water. Around here, some showers on Saturday. Could see lingering clouds for Sunday. Highs under 80. Labor Day itself, a high of 85 degrees, looking pretty.
And coming up, that ABC News exclusive, Dwayne Wade opening up about the tragic death of his cousin. A mom gunned down as she signed her children up for school.